Boker Tov, today's daf is daf Lamed Hey and Shavuos as we learn from Chanukah basis on Sun Matzar Shivya. How were the Shavuos made? How were they make when they cause somebody else to make a Shavuot, you make a Shavuot on your own? We're talking here about Shavuos Ha'edis, but we're referring to, we'll see, Pekudin also in Shavuos Hadayonim that we're going to talk about in the next two parak. Mashbi'ani Alechem, I adjure you. That's one way. Mashbi'ani Alechem, or Mitzavani Alechem, or I command you. We'll see. Well, how does that mean? Command you with what? Osarchem ani, I am binding you. Harei chayavim. They're all chayiv. In other words, if you swear this way, and Rashi says that we'll see that you're talking about we use Hashem's name. According to most Rishonim, according to Rashi, certainly according to others, you have to use Hashem's name in the shvuah. You just say I swear without God's name. How do you use a God's name? We'll see what we mean by that. Then you're chayiv. If you swear falsely, you're chayiv to bring the carbon over Yoreh. But Shemayim Varetz, if you swear by the heavens and the earth, that's not a shvuah. You have to swear by God, right? Not by the heavens and the earth, as we'll see. Now, if you use God's name in the Aleph Dala, that's the Shem Adnus that we say Ado and then Noi, or B'Yud Hey, which is what we say Yud Kei Vav Kei, or you say B'Shakai, Hashem's name, whatever they translate that, Almighty or whatever. B'tzva'os or b'tzva'kos, that also refers to God. B'chanan v'racham, we serve the gracious or the merciful one. Berach hapayim, the one who is patient. B'rav chesed, the one who is with great kindness. V'kol ha'kanun, or any other substitute names for God. Harei l'chayavim. So you have to use God's name according to the Mishnah in a shvuah in order to be chayav a carbon shvuah. But it doesn't have to be God's name, the usual God's name that we talk about. The God's name either the Shem Adnos or the Shem Yud Kei, but rather even a substitute also. Hamakalel b'kulin, if you curse God with any of those words, right? With any of those words, also chayv divrei meir v'chamsei b'potter. Chamsei, because you only cursing because it says learn that from Yaakov Hashem, as we'll see that you have to say Yaakov Hashem as Hashem, that double osh that we talked about in Nedarim. There also you see that you have to say, if you don't use God's name, they're the substitute words. You're not chayiv according to the chacham. Of course, potter means potter v'lasser. Hamakalav v'imo, if you curse God's name, if you curse your parents' name rather, with any of those names of God, including substitute names, you're chayiv. Divrei Rav Meir, because you curse your parents, you're chayiv misa for that, right? However, Divrei Meir v'cham potter, v'cham say your potter unless you use God's real name, meaning Adnus or Yud Kei Vav Kei. If you curse yourself or chavero, that's also forbidden. But kulin over and basad, all those you're over in nasei, you're not chayiv misa for cursing yourself or cursing somebody else, right? Nasi ba'amcha sorry, you shouldn't. It's a lav, but you shouldn't curse them. But it's not chayiv misa. Yakcha Hashem Elokim, b'chein Yakcha Elokim zui ola aksuv b'Torah. When it says may God smite you rather. That's the curse that's in the Torah. Yaakov Hashem Elokim. Al Yaakov. So if you use that word and you say, listen, if you don't testify on my behalf, Hashem will curse you, right? That's the curse that we're talking about. That's the shvuah that's written in the Torah. We'll see that later on that Olah and shvuah are the same. Olah means curse and shvuah means an oath, but that's they go together. Shvuah could be with an Olah or without an Olah. Al Yaakov. Let's say he says, if you testify for me, God should not curse you, or God should be nice to you and bless you, etc., and be good to you if you testify for me. Rav Meir says you're chayiv, because the implication is that if you don't testify for me, Hashem will not be good to you. And that's the curse that we're talking about here, a curse that accompanies a shvuah. Chacham say you're potter, because they don't say, when it comes to the shvuah, you don't say Mechlal Av Ata Shemei Hein or Mechlal Hein Ata Shemei Allah, but rather it's got to be direct. It's got to be that I adjure you to swear in God's name. I adjure you to swear, and Hashem will curse you if you swear falsely or if you don't swear. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? I make you swear by what? What's the meaning of that shvuah? I adjure you by the shvuah that's written in the Torah. The Torah in several places says that you have to make a shvuah, like we see in the case of the Sota. In other cases, there's a shvuah that's written in the Torah. Also, it says after it says or mitzavani alechem, and as the Mishnah said that either mashbenachem or mitzava or asrachem. So what do we mean by that? It means I adjure you by the shvua that's written in the Torah. In several places it talks about a shvua, right? Lo sishava lishmi lashakar, etc. Mitzavani lechem b'tzava amar Torah. The pasuk says, "Ela mitzvos." These are the mitzvos. Asher tziva Hashem. That's there. We find the idea that tzava in the Torah. Mitzvos means a commandment to do something. Osarchem ani be'isar amar Torah. There it talks about a shvuas isar also, right? In Matos, it says there be'isar amar Torah. So there, osarchem means the isar, the shvuas are in the Torah. In other words, all three cases, you're referring to some command or shvua that's written in the Torah. Amalei abaya ella the Tanur of Chiyuv learn kovalchem ani. I chain you. And that's also chayiv. Kovel b'raisimi. If it doesn't say the word kovel anywhere in the Torah, chaining. The other ones you could say. Isar, it says in the Torah. Savo, it says in the Torah. Mitzvos. Shvu, it says in the Torah. It doesn't say koval. Elo amar abai. This is what it means. I adjure you with an oath. I command you with an oath. I bind you with an oath. I chain you with an oath. In other words, I'm binding you in all these cases with an oath that you must swear that you must swear that you don't know testimony, because I'm asking you to testify. And if not, I'm swearing you that you must swear that you don't know testimony. And if you turn out a liar, you have to bring the korban ol v'yorei. So the Mishnah said that b'alef dalet, b'yud hey, b'shaka, b'svakas, b'chanim racham echvam, all those cases, the shvua works. Even you substitute Hashem's name. Again, some learned that you don't have to, that it's still a shvua even if you didn't use Hashem's name. But according to the Pasha Bashmos here and Mashma from Rashi, that like Rashi, the last Rashi on the page says, Sarcham Yishvu Maskiras Hashem Be'echad B'Kol Lashon Sa'ilu, right? You use Hashem's name with any of these Lashonos. If I cause you to swear, I bind you, I chain you, I command you. Says the Gemara, are you saying that using the words Chanun Bracham, Hashem is gracious, like your graciousness, your kindness, your mercifulness, those are names of God. Ramini, there are names of God that the names that we refer to God that can be erased because they don't refer to God directly. There are names that cannot be blotted out. It's also to Abei Tabdun. You can't destroy the name of Hashem. You can't wipe out Hashem's name. So there are some names of God that you are not allowed to because those are real names of Hashem. The other ones that you're allowed to are just adjectives, but they're not really names of Hashem. Eluhain, Shmos, Shein Chakim. What are the ones that cannot be blotted out, cannot erase? Kagon, Kael, Elokecha, Elokim, Elokechem, Eyeh, Sher Eyeh. Aleph Dalet, that's Shemadnas V'Yud, Hey, that's a Yud Kei Vav Kei. Shakai Tzvokos, Harelunim Chakim. All those are names of God. You're not allowed to blot them out. Avol, if you use the word Hagadol, the big, Hagibor, the mighty, Hanora, the revered, Ha'adir, the majestic, Hachazok, the strong, Ha'amitz, the powerful, Izus, the potent, Chanun Varachim, or the gracious one, or the merciful one, Erech Hapayim, or the one who's patient, Rav Chesed, the one who has a multitude of kindness, so those aren't God's names. And our Mishnah is Mashma Racham Chanun Hashem's names. Here's Mashma Racham. Amar Abaya, Masnisan, our Mishnah means B'mishu Chanan. Our Mishnah says we're referring to somebody who is gracious, Mishu Racham, who is merciful. Then it's the Mishnah. The word Racham Chanun itself does not mean that. Does not mean God's name. But our Mishnah says, I swear by the one who is merciful, the one who is kind, the one who is gracious. Amalei Rava, Yachab Hashemayim Ba'aretz Nami. You can say, why do we say in the Mishnah that if you swear by the heavens and the earth, that's not a shvua for which you be chayav? I mean, it's also to do, but it's not something which you be chayav a korban ol v'yorei. So it's nami b'misha shemayim v'aretz shelo. Maybe you mean by the what you're swearing by the one who the heavens and the earth belong to, meaning God. Nobody else is called. No other item or unit in the world is called Racham Chanun except for Hashem. Nobody else is called that. Obviously means the one who is merciful, the one who is gracious. Hacha, but over here by Shemayim Ba'aretz, keeping the Ika Shemayim, there is a heavens and an earth. Bashmas, we mean Bashmas, I swear by the heavens and the earth. Like as long as the heavens and the earth are around, I'm swearing by them. That doesn't mean God. But when you say Racham Mechanu, it obviously means the one who is Racham Mechanu, because there is no unit, substance, or item that's called Racham Mechanu other than God. Tan Rabbanan. Let's say you started to write the word Elokim and you just did the Aleph and the Lamed, the first two letters, or you started to write Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, let's say in the Torah, and you started to write the or you started to write the Yud Kei from Hashem, from Yud Kei Vav Kei. You can't blot it out, even though you didn't finish writing Hashem's name. But the Aleph Lamed alone and the Yud Hey alone also are Hashem's name. Therefore, you can't blot it out.
Aleph Lamed is just Al.
It could also mean kale. It's al and it's kale, depending on the pronunciation. Right. In the case, if you started to write Elokim and you got the Aleph Lamed, then you can't write it out. If you had in mind to write the word al, like al Yakalel or whatever it was, whatever the word is al, Navi Ba'amcha al Tahor. That al you could erase. It has to be when you wrote Aleph Lamed of Elokim or Yud Kei from Yud Kei Vav Kei. Shin Dalet. Let's say you wrote the shin and the dalet from the word Shaddai or Shakai, Shin Dalet, or Aleph Dalet Me'at from the Aleph from the Shem Ado and then Noi, or the Tzadik Beis from Tzvakos, or those could be erased because they don't necessarily refer to God. If you just refer to Shin and Dalet, that's a shade, right? A demon, or the Aleph and Dalet could be something else. The Tzadik and the Beis from Tzvakos, Yossi Omer. Tzvos kula nimchak. Even if you write the whole word tzvokos, that doesn't refer to God. Shalanikar tzvokos ella al Shem Yisrael. Hashem is called the God, the Lord of hosts. I'll take out my hosts, meaning my nation. So he says tzvokos. We don't mean God's name. We mean God who is the Lord of the hosts of the Jewish people. So he says you can erase. So Rabbi Yossi said you can erase the whole word tzvos because it doesn't mean God. It just refers to Bnei Yisrael. Shmuel says the halacha is not like Rabbi Yossi. Tana Rabbanan, we're in the first of the wide lines. Kol Tapal Hashem, anything joining or secondary to the Shem, whether it's a prefix or a suffix, could be erased because that's not. For example, the fun of Ketzad. Let's say you have the word Lashem, Lashem Arasum Loa. So Lamed Dimchak, you can erase the Lamed because that's not Hashem's name. It's just a prefix. Bash, the same thing with Ba Hashem, Beis Nimchak, if you wrote Ba Hashem, Va Hashem, the Vav Nimchak, Me Hashem, Mem Nimchak, She Hashem, Shin Nimchak, Ha Hashem, right? So the He can be Nimchak, Ka Hashem, like God, the Chav Nimchak. So all those prefixes could be erased because they're not part of God's name. La'achrav, but if it's a suffix, okay, so what's an example of that we say also, according to the Tanakama, you can erase that? Elokeinu. If you write Elokeinu, so the nun vav nimcha could be erased. Elokeihem, the hey mem nimcha could be erased. Elokeichem, the chof and the mem nimcha. Others say la'achar ben nimcha. The suffixes may not be erased. Shekvar kitchu Hashem, because since they are attached already to God's name, there was already God's name at the beginning, and that's the suffix. They are also sacred. They are also considered sanctified. You can't erase them. So we have machlokas. Everybody seems to agree you can erase the prefix, but not necessarily the suffix. That's a machlokas. The loch is like others that you cannot erase the suffix. Kol shemas amurim b'Torah. Now we're going to deal with throughout Tanakh. There are many times when you have the word ado and then noi. Sometimes it refers to God. Sometimes it just refers to secular chol, like slicha adoni zemakom shali, right? Adoni, like Adoni, sir, means sir. It doesn't mean God. So sometimes it means God, sometimes it doesn't. So the question is, in certain places in Shas, in Tanakh rather, when is it holy? When is it kodesh? The word is sacred, meaning referring to God, and when is it just referring to Mr. So where do you have that? So we're going to go through different places throughout Tanakh. Kol shemas b'Torah ba'Avram. When it talks about Avram, whenever it says Ado and then Noi, they're all kodesh, or refers to God. Chutz mizeh shuchol, except for one where it refers to Mr. Shenemar. Vayomer Hashem, Vayomer, and he says Ado then Noi. Who was he referring to? He was referring to one of the three angels, the middle angel there, when they came to visit Avram. So that one, whenever else it says the Shem Adnus in reference to Avram, it means Hashem's name, God's name. It's sacred. It's Kodesh. except for that one which is Chol. Hanina ben Achira Bishua. There are two people here. Hanina, the nephew of Yeshua, and Reb Lezer ben Mazariah Bishum Reb Lezer Amadoin, the name of Reb Lezer from Modi'in. Where they said, Afseh Kodesh. Even this time, when it says Vayomer, it means, what is he saying? The three angels were in front of him, but when Avram said to Hashem, Hashem said, please wait for a minute. God, I know you came to visit me, but I'm treating I have these three guests here. Can you please wait a minute, wait your turn, right? He says, that was also Kodesh. Vayomer, when he said Vayomer Hashem, it means really Hashem. He says Ado and then no, it means Hashem. Afseh Kodesh. Kamana Oslo, Hadam Rabbi Yirmirav. Who does the following thing go like? Rabbi Yirmirav said, accepting guests, inviting guests to your home is greater than greeting God, greeting God's countenance. Command look like that pair of rabbis, like Chanina ben Achir B'Shua and Abelazar ben Azariah, the name of Abelazar Badoi, who said that what Avram was doing over here is saying, Hashem, could you please wait a minute while I entertain my guests? Below, when it comes to Lot, Avram's nephew, those are all, whenever he says there, the Shem Adnos, that refers to secular, meaning sir. Chutz mizeh, except for this one, which is Kodesh Shenemar, Vayoma Lot, Aleim Hashem, Lot said to them, Alna, please don't. He's speaking to the angel, but he says, then he says, Ado noi, hine no masasi chen masasi avdecha chen beinecha. So even though it seems like he's speaking to the angel who came to visit him, right? But this were, according to this member in the Gemara, this Ado and then Noi refers to God. Why? Because he's saying, please, let us live. Don't destroy the city, etc. Who is the one when he's saying that lashon of Adonai? He's not saying sir, because sir, you're talking to the angels. The angels don't, if they appear like men, they don't have the power to kill and cause to live. Kodesh Baruch Hu. So obviously, Lot in this case must be referring to God, even though all the other cases, when he's referring to them, he says, "Please this and please that." There, the Shem Adnos simply means chol. It's secular or means sir. By Navos, who was killed by Nebuchadnezzar, all the names that are used there are also holy or sacred. The Micha, the ones that are mentioned by Micha, are chol or secular. But Omer, the Navos Kodesh. The Micha, he agrees that Navos is Kodesh. It refers to God when it talks about when they refer to God there. He says, God can't allow me to sell you my vineyard, etc. It's referring to God. But when it comes to Micha, yesh min chol, yesh min kodesh. Some references of Adnos are secular and some are sacred. Aleph Lamed, if it says it in the lashon of Aleph Lamed, like a kale, then chol. Yud Hey, but if it's in the lashon of Yud K, then it's kodesh. Chutz mizeh, except for one example. Aleph Lamed vu kodesh. This is Aleph Lamed and it is kodesh. This is kol yemei heyos beis holokim b'shilo. And therefore it's Aleph Lamed, but obviously the beis holokim is in Shiloh, referring to the Mishkan, referring to God. The story of the famous story of Pelegish Begiva. All the names there mentioned in the Shem Adnos, whether it's Adnos or Aleph Lamed or Kale Elokim, they are all given. So what are those Shemos? Rabbi Lezer says they're Chol, Rabbi Shua Omer Kodesh. Machlokas, whether it's referring to God or referring to secular. Omer lo Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer said to Rabbi Lezer, who said what? That they are Chol. How could they be Kodesh v'chim meftiach ve'enosa? Can God promise them? They lost the first couple of wars when Bnei Yisrael went to fight with Binyamin over the story of Pelegish Begiva. So how could you say that they are God's name? Would God promise something and not perform? Rabbi Shua who says that it's referring to Kodesh. What Hashem promised, He did. They didn't check it out. They didn't try to discern when they asked God, should they go to war? They didn't say imlin soach imli natseach. Will they win or will they lose? Will they be defeated? In other words, will they win the war against Binyamin, or will Binyamin defeat them? At the first two times. So when they lost the first two wars, it's not that it couldn't be that they were speaking to God. They were speaking to God, but simply they didn't try to find out who's going to win. Bachrona, the last war, Shebichnu, that they checked out and they said, are we going to win? Are they going to win? And then Eskimo he agreed, okay, you'll win. Shneimar says, Pinchas Malos Manara Kohen, Omer Lefana B'Yameh, he stood there, Lamor saying, Ha'osef Oh, Lotzis Muhammad saying, Ha'osif, rather, not Ha'osif, Ha'osif, should we go out to war a third time? Will we win now? In B'nai Binyamin Achi, their brothers, in Mechla, or should I stop? So then Hashem said, yeah, go out and you will win. So in the third time you'll win. And it was like, Hashem didn't promise them the first 2 times that we're going to win. Just promise him, just said, go out to war. You're going to go out and you're going to lose. Kol Shlomo, Amar Shir Shirim. Every time it says Shlomo and Shir Shirim, Kodesh refers to God. It doesn't refer to Shlomo Melech, right? Shir Lamisha Shalom Shlo. It's a song to one who owns peace, to the one who has peace. That peace is to him. Chutz mizeh, except for this one. Kami Shili Lefanai. My vineyard is in front of me. Ha'elef L'cha Shlomo. Shlomo, you have 1,000 parts. Shlomo L'didei. That Shlomo is referring to Shlomo himself. Umasayim L'not Maspirio. And 200 to those who guard his fruit. Who are they? The Rabbanan. And Rashi explains that what does that mean? That means Umasayim L'not L'Rabbanan. He nichem v'yaske b'Torah echem b'shish rebem. 1 out of 6, meaning if there's 1,000 for Shlomo and 200 for the rabbis, that's a total of 1,200. 200 out of 1,200 is 1/6. So 1/6 can have you don't have to go to war. They can sit and learn. That's what Rashi says, that he let them sit. But he means 1/6 of the Charedim, not 1/6 of the whole population. Yes. That's how we'd interpret it today, right? Right. So that's Lord of the Spirit. That's Rabbanan. Okay. So again, what did he start by saying? All the times it says Shlomo in Shir Hashem, it means God, except for this one that he says El Shlomo. Shlomo has a 12 parts. In other words, he's allowed to take 1/6 of the population or 1/6 of the Charedim, as we're joking, and say they can sit and learn. The Yesham Afsechol. Some say not only is that one chol, meaning referring to Shlomo, not to Rabbanu Shalom, but the following one is also chol. Hine mitasa Shlomo shishim giborim savavla, right? His bed has 60 rounds. So we've had different interpretations. Doesn't mean literally, but even if you take it literally, okay, that's another case where it takes first to Shlomo himself. Says the Gemara, the Yesh means what? Afse, meaning afse v'loy hech. Not only this one, but not only, even this one of mitaso of Shlomo's bed. And certainly the first one, when we talk about Karmi Shalfana Elef Shlomo, that means that both of them, everybody agrees that the first one, Karmi Shali, is definitely Chol, referring to Shlomo HaMelech, not to Rabban Shalom. Elo Rama Shmuel, if that's the case, Shmuel said, it says like this, Malchusa the Kotla Chad Meshisa Alma, a kingdom which kills 1/6, meaning which drafts 1/6 of its nation into the army, Lo Mianshu will not be punished, meaning 1/6 of the nation can go to the army. Shenemar, Karmi Shali Lefonai. My Kerem is in front of me. Ha'elef L'cha Shlomo, what does that mean? Ha'elef L'cha Shlomo, L'malchusa de Rekia. That means this, 1,000 or for the Malchus of heaven. Umasayim L'notim Espiril, L'malchusa Da'ara. In other words, he says over here that Shmuel says that a nation or a kingdom that takes 1/6 of its population into the army will not be punished, as it says that in other words, 1,000 have to be devoted to God. Refers to the Malchus of this world. So then when he says that means to God's kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, meaning the kingdom of heaven has to have 1,000 or 5/6 of it devoted to heaven. That's the kingdom of heaven, and 1/6 for the kingdom of the earth. So here you see that Shmuel says that Shlomo refers to God's kingdom. So if that's the case, Shmuel lo Tanakam v'lo Yeshomrim doesn't agree with the Tanakam or like the Yeshomrim, because the Yeshomrim just says what, that the Mita of God, the Mita refers to Shlomo, the pasuk about Mita refers to Shlomo, and the Tanakama says, the Mita refers to, as well as Karmi refers to Shlomo, and the Tanakama says at least Karmi refers to Shlomo. According to Shmuel, Karmi doesn't refer to Shlomo, the pasuk of Karmi refers to God. This is what it means. The Yeshomrim Zeh Kodesh V'Zeh Chol. In other words, you could say that when the Yeshomrim is not saying that even not only Karmi, but also the Mita is also referring to King Solomon, King Melech Shlomo, but rather the Yeshomrim is saying no. The first one, the Karmi, is referring to Kodesh Hashem, because there it says the Malchusa of Shlomo means the Malchus of heaven. The Zeu Chol, and the single one which is Chol is the meat of Shlomo, and Shmuel Damar Ki Yesh Omrim. So according to this, Shmuel agrees with the Yesh Omrim, and everybody agrees that of all the times it says Shlomo in Shir Hashirim, only one of them refers to King Shlomo. All the other ones refer to God. Just looking at Rashi here. Yeah, okay. Next one, every time it refers to the word king, Melchaya is Aramaic, obviously, for Melech, king. Every time it says in Daniel king, Chol, it refers to a secular king, meaning a human king, all right, like Nebuchadnezzar. Chutz mizeh, except for one which is Kodesh. There's only one time that Melech in Daniel refers to Hashem, whereas it says Ant Malka. He said to the king, to Nebuchadnezzar, At Malka, you the king, Melech Malchaya, the Alashmaya, the king of kings, referring to God, who is the God of heavens, Malchusa, the Elkeshmaya, Malchusa, Chasna, V'takva, V'yakra Yovlecha. He's given you a kingdom which is strong and powerful and honored. That's what he's given to you. So when he says, you king, Nebuchadnezzar, the God of kings has given you this power. Obviously, the King of Kings refers to Hashem. That's what he means. All the other ones refer to a human king. Some say Afzeh Kodesh, which was all Kodesh, and it says More, master, referring to God. Chalma Lisanecha, a dream to those who hate you. Upshara, and its interpretation, Larach, to your enemies. The man Kamer, who is he speaking to? Nebuchadnezzar, Kamer. If he's speaking to Nebuchadnezzar, Kamer, who are the ones who hate Nebuchadnezzar? Yisrael. Yisrael, would he curse Yisrael? So it is if Daniel was speaking to Nebuchadnezzar, would he say the dream? Would he say the dreams to your to those who hate you, and the interpretations to your enemies? Meaning, all these bad things will happen. Well, who are Nebuchadnezzar's enemies? Presumably the Jews. Would he curse the Jews? Rather, what he's saying is God, to Rabbanu Shalom, your dreams to those who hate you, and its interpretation to your enemies, referring to God. So that's why he says that the Yesh Omrim, is a Yesh Omrim here? Yeah. No, Ant Malka, yeah, the Yesh Omrim, Afse Kodesh. In other words, 2 times that it says king in Sefer Daniel does refer to Hashem. The first one, when he said, you, Nebuchadnezzar, the King of Kings, has empowered you. So there, the King of Kings, obviously. And some say of the Kodesh when he refers to Moy, because that refers to God also. God, your dreams, the things that will happen to them, to those who hate you, and the interpretation to those your enemies. Can't be to Nebuchadnezzar, because then he's basically cursing the Bnei Yisrael. But Tanakama doesn't say that. He says only the first one where it says the King of Kings refers to Hashem, but not this last pasuk of Moreh Chalma L'Sanecha, Savar Soni Yisrael Ika Soni Avicham Leka, could be referring to Nebuchadnezzar. He said, Nebuchadnezzar, the ones who hate you, the dream should happen to those who hate you. Doesn't mean the Jews. A lot of Goyim also hate Nebuchadnezzar, all the other kingdoms that he conquered. All right, so he said in all Kinuyin in the Torah, all Kinuyin rather, all substitute names for Hashem, a shvua that you make using those substitutes also is chal, and if you lied, you'd have to bring a carbon for that shvua. Raminu. It says like this, Yitain, it says here, we're going to read this week's Parsha. In Noso, we have the Parsha of Sota. It says, Yitain Hashem oschal ol shvua. Hashem should, Yitain Hashem osoch, I guess, it's right. Hashem should make you the suspected woman for a curse and an oath. Matam, why does it say that? But look for a number, it says, Vishbia Kohen es isha. The Kohen will adjure, will forswear the woman, Bishvu Sa'ala, with the oath of a curse, right? The oath of a curse. So why does it say again? Yitain Hashem oschala ol shvua. Hashem should just say what's going to happen to you. You know, your stomach's going to fall out, etc., etc. Says Rashi. So it should just say Yitain Hashem es yirechim. Hashem should just say, okay, your body's going to fall apart here. Why did it have to say again Yitain Hashem oschala ol shvua?
So
Otach. Yeah, I said Otach once.
Yeah.
Just keep saying. Right? Why does it have to say again Yitain Hashem Otach la'olo shvua? The Fishin Emar, because it says V'shama kol ola. Where does it say V'shakam Ola? Here in our Pasha, in Vayikra Hey, that we've been talking about, where it says, V'nefshech v'shama kol Ola, you heard the voice of the curse. In other words, you made a shvur that you don't know any testimony. It turns out that you lied. You have to bring korban al v'yored. It says here shama kol Ola. It doesn't say shvur. I mean, this whole parak, we're talking about shvur seidus. The Torah doesn't say shvur there. The Torah says kisech v'shama kol Ola. So v'shama kol Ola, never kan Ola v'never laholan. It says Ola by sota. Malon shvur. There it's referring to shvur because it says yitein Hashem oschala Ola l'shvur. So there we know it's a shvur. Afkan also shvur. So here, when it comes to shvur seidus, it also means with a shvur. Umala halon b'shem, just like over there it says Hashem, because the yitein Hashem otach. Hashem, there it was the God's name. Afkan b'shem, here it also has to be Hashem's name. Okay, so what do you see over here? A substitute words isn't good enough. The Mishnah said if you use any of God's name, Rachum, Mechanun, Shakai, Tzvokas, any of God's names, right, even substitute names that we've been using, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed, all those things, they all work. Here it's mashma, you have to use Hashem's name. It says Yiten Hashem of Sach. You learn out from Sota to Shvuah Seidus. It's got to be Hashem's name. Amar Vayalo Kasha. Horab Chanina Baridi Horabonis. Machlokas. Very, very simple. It's machlokas. The Rabbanan say, like in our Mishnah, our Mishnah says any substitute words is also good. Chanina Baridi says no. It's got to be literally God's name, like Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei or Hashem Adnos. The Tanya. Rabbi Chanina Baridi Omer Hov Omer Torah He Shava. Ba'al Tishava. The Torah says in certain cases you must swear. Right, like Vishbia Kohen or Shvuas Hashem Tia V'Shneim. The next parak we're going to start in Mir Hashem tomorrow is Shvuas Habakan, talking about where you swear that you don't owe the guy any money. You didn't take a Pekadon from him or anything like that. The next parak after that Shvuas Hadayanan, that you have to swear whether you come to court and you say, like we have here, you come to court, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and you swear on a Bible and all that. That's the Shvuas Hadayanan. So you have to swear. And it says al tishava, you shouldn't swear. Where does it say al tishava? Lo tishava lishmi la shaker, right? Rashi points out l'shava lishmaka. So it says swear. Kalel v'lo v'al tekalel. Pasuk says what? Curse. Where does it say curse? Right? Kalel yiten Hashem mechasor la'Allah. That Hashem gave you for a curse. That's by sota. And al tekalel, don't curse. Right? Ben kel Hashem ben chasaver lo tekal cherish. So it says all these things. Ma hishava b'shem, just like hishavas with Hashem, because it says yitein Hashem oscha le'ola u'lishvua. Ma hishava b'shem. Aflos hishavas is also b'shem, means you shouldn't swear falsely. You shouldn't swear by Hashem's name. Ma kilo b'shem, just like klal is also with Hashem. Yitein Hashem oscha otach le'ola u'lishvua. That's a klal with Hashem. Aflos hakala b'shem. It's got to be Hashem's name. Substitute isn't good enough. For Rabbanan, so Manashah, do they hold to the Gzei Reshava of Allah and Ola, right? It says here, Eidus, it says V'shama kol Ola without using the word Shvua, but we darshaning out since it says Ola in both that even by Shvua Eidus it has to be with a Shvua and with a curse. Rabbana Igamir, if they held the Gzei Shav and Iboy Shem Amichud, you need a regular Shem. They shouldn't say that a substitute name is good enough for the Shvua. Ilo Gomir Gzei Shav. If they don't know the Gzei Shava, so Ola the Shvua he Menalu. How do they know that Ola means a Shvua? Ola means curse. How do you know that Ola means a shvuah if they don't have the Gzei Shava? The answer is right. They don't know the Gzei Shava. Naflu made a Tanya from following. It says Ola ain't Ola shvuah. The word Ola, the curse, also means shvuah. El lashon shvuah. Chenon pasuk says v'yishbia hakohen es ha'isha b'shvuah sa'ola. Right. So you see that Ola refers to a shvuah. So you see Ola means a shvuah. I don't need a Gzei Shava for that. If you'd have a Gzei Shava in a cham, you'd have to use Hashem's name. But since you don't have Gzei Shava, no. Ola itself means shvuah. The Gemara Hasam Shvua Sa'olaksiv, it doesn't say Shvua and Ola separately as if they are synonyms. It says the oath of the curse, or a curse that has an oath with it. Right? So it means Ola ain't Ola Ela B'Shvua, and Ola has to be with a curse. A curse can only be with an oath. In other words, it's not just Shvua Sa'ola. There's two kinds of oaths: an oath with a curse and an oath without a curse. And they're separate things. And if it didn't have a curse with it, it doesn't count. No, Ola means shvua, and it says Ola ain Ola ela b'shvua. A curse always has to accompany a curse. Without a shvua is not a curse, but a shvua, as we'll see, could be without a curse, right? But a curse can only mean with a shvua. So Ola umenayin lasos. The gear says in Rashi, he skips the parentheses. Umenayin lasos shvua she'enima Allah kashvur shema. How do we know that a shvur that has a curse with it? In other words, a curse can only be with a shvur, because we learn out either from the Gzeir Shava like Rabbi Chanina, or like the Rabbanan who say, no, Allah means shvur with it, as it says, Ishbia Kohen Esa Isha B'Shvuas Allah. Allah means with a shvur. Without a shvur, it's not a real curse. How do we know that shvur alone without a curse is also powerful, is also considered shvur? Menayin lasos shvur she'eni ma'Allah k'shvur she'eshi ma'Allah. Shvur that doesn't have a curse as if a shvur. Right? Talmud Lomar, it says this, V'shama kol Allah. Right? Why does it say kol? It says V'shama Allah, just say heard the curse. What is kol? V'shama Allah, V'shama kol, to tell you each one. Either you heard the curse with an oath, or you heard the oath without a curse. It's either with the curse could be with an oath, or the oath could be without a curse. Allah means a curse with a shvua. Kol just means a shvua by itself. Amar Ravu, one more. He says also, how do you know literally that an Allah means a shvua? Means a curse, but it means with an oath. Shenemar, Vayavo Allah, Nebuchadnezzar forswore Tzidkiyo that he would be loyal to him. He brought him in with a curse. Except afterwards, Nebuchadnezzar Morad. He rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar. Asher Shbio by Elokim made him swear. So first he says with a curse, and then he says he made him swear. So you see that Allah is also Allah means with a shvua. Shvua could be without a curse, but Allah is always with a curse. So it comes out that Allah and shvua are basically synonymous. All right, we'll pick them here tomorrow, Mr. Shem, from the word tana right there.
Yeah.
Have a good day.